So we're starting off looking at the case system, which comes in a nice natty case with a strap inside. The holder itself is well made, appears to be made out of some form of metal, aluminium, with a foam seal gasket and plastic style, but very nicely moulded and clean filter slots. It comes with an adapter which has an integrated swivel. Now, I've got one of the older adapters, so it's when I've put this on, and we put the filter holder on, which screws down. It should tighten up completely, but at the moment it's got some play in it. But we'll ignore that for a moment because I'm getting a new version of it soon. So you can see from the back, if I show you, here we have the clamp. We also have a little knob here. And what this knob is doing is turning the embedded holder. Now, quite cleverly, and I do like this feature, the case has a magnetised polarising filter. And that's it, it's on. So now if I turn the cog, you can see the polarising filter coming round. The filters themselves feel very nice, solid glass. It's a sputtered coating, so it's a metal coating of some sort. All the edges are beveled nicely. Corners have a tiny chamfer on them where it's been gripped by the deposit machine, and they're very nicely labelled at the bottom. This is a hard gradual grey 0.6. Now, I was expecting that the front slot would be very tight because of the gasket, but they are quite well made in terms of tolerance, so that it's not going to slip out. And if I put it in the front slot, it's not much less grip than the rear slot. And obviously I can still use the polarizer in the background there. So let's put that away for a moment. The nice thing about this system is if I take the holder off, I can still use the polarizer rotating on the holder. To get the polarizer off, you really do need a nail, because it's a fairly thin contact zone. And I can't quite do it with my finger. However, if you have no nails, it's simple enough to push the filter out to the back. As I say, I'll repeat this, this is an older filter holder, and I'm doing centre replacement so that when it's attached here, locked down, it stays in place. That's the case system. This is the breakthrough photography system made in San Francisco, and what a lovely pile of goodies this is. These very natty looking sleeves for all of the filters. Note the filter's got its own gasket. These are the ND filters in the square sleeves, colour coded and with labels on the side. And then we have the graduated filters. We have 2-stop soft, 2-stop hard, and a 3-stop soft. So that's the filter cases. I have to say, I really like these. Very tactile. And we get to the filter holder itself. This is the filter holder and the adapter combined. So I'll just take the adapter off for a moment, because we'll come to that in a moment. So there's the holder. We have 3 slots in this one, and it has these very textured surfaces, which I think they're trying to follow the pattern on the cases, but it doesn't work quite as well with this plastic. The back is metal, and we've got nice thumb screws if we need to adjust the filter slots. We have a pull lever for the adapter, and we have a locking screw so the adapter can't accidentally come off. So let's have a look at the adapter. Now the adapter here is a bit more complicated than your average adapter. It has a swiveling knob on there, obviously for polarizer rotation. And inside it also has magnets for the magnetic polarizer. So let's put this on the system. Slot it on, that's how it mounts. We have this rear back here which can rotate, and the whole thing can rotate. We can lock down the whole thing. So now it's not only locked for rotation, but it's not coming off. Okay, let's put it on the camera. There's the adapter, fairly chunky, and the holder clips on quite nicely. The whole thing rotates. We'll do that knob up at the back, and that stops that from rotating. So let's try filtering it. Here's the filter. These are probably the Corning glass, like many of the other filters we can see. They're metal coated, same way, nicely labelled. This is a 2-stop soft. Let's see how well this slips into the holder. Nice and positive. Smooth action, so you can make small adjustments easily. Some holders can be a little bit sticky. Let's take that out for a moment and take a look at the polarizer. The first thing to notice about the polarizer is it's quite deep, so the magnet system in here is different to other ones. And this is a shot glass dark CPL, so this one is a 6-stop ND filter and polarizer combined. There we go. It pulls in. This is easier to remove. You don't need to use your nails on this one. And we can now use the, if we undo the clamp, we should be able to use our ridged backing. There we are, rotating the filter. So, very nicely made, all metal. My only first impression is that it's a little bulky, but we'll see how it's used in the field later. Okay, we've got the Benro system next, and this is quite an advanced looking system. Well, nice machined metal. Clean moulded plastic for filter holders. an interesting knob, which we'll come back to in a moment, and a clamp for the adapter to go in. So first of all, let's put the provided adapter on the camera. This is a slightly recessed 77mm adapter. And to put the adapter on, pull out the lever, and then it's attached. We have a little blue clamp here which we can use to tighten up the holder to keep it square, and we'll do that now just so it's easier to play around with. This has got 3 filter holders on, which brings us to the caddy. I think we'll be seeing more of these. There's 3 manufacturers using caddies. I don't know who was first. The Wine Country filters, Benro here, and a company called H&Y, which is part of Marumi, I think. So how does this work then? Well, let's take one of their filters, which is in a nice plastic case, and then inside a cloth sleeve. Now, a brief note on the filters. Nice glass again. This is a hard 2-stop filter, marked well. I don't know if you can see in the reflection there, you can see the colours that seem to arrive from the deposition process. Now those are, I think, those are to do with the type of metal deposited and don't show up through transmission, only in reflection. That's something will show up later. But yes, very well made. Good consistent thicknesses. And what does this do then? Well, this holder allows us to dock the filter. And this little ball here just holds the top down so it doesn't accidentally come undone. Why would we want a caddy like this? Well, I can think of 2 reasons. One is when filters are put down, they are no longer scratching against the particles on the floor, which is a good thing in my mind. They do protect the edges of a filter. Potentially they might help if a filter was dropped. But in Benro's case here, when we put the filters in the holder, this little adjuster here can be moved backwards and forwards, and it has a cog on the other side, and that engages with the tooth on the caddy. So hopefully, if I push this in far enough, I can now adjust the filters one at a time, and I can go to the next filter in line, and just the next one, and just the 3rd one. So it means I should have fairly instinctive moving of those filters. Whether it comes in useful in the field, I don't know yet, but I sort of like the idea. I thought it was a gadget at first, but the movement is very positive. So that's the holders. Now, I'll put that to one side for a second because we're going to look at the polarizer next. Now, it'd be great if these were magnetic. Well, they're not. But they go in fairly straightforwardly. And just to the rear of the filter there is a place where you can rotate, and there is one down at the other side as well. And these rotate fairly cleanly. Nice smooth action. You can see it on the front there. So overall, quite impressed. These are a little bit fiddly to get out. The amount of actual space for the filter itself is quite minimal, so I did spend quite a while last time trying to get this undone. Please give us the magnetic version. And there we go, we have a full range of filters, and we'll see how it works in the field later. And now we're on to looking at the wine country filters setup. Now this is the case for the adapter, and we'll start there. A nice impact resistant case, and I have to say the filter holder looks like it would take quite a lot of impacts itself. It's made out of some sort of anodized metal with very high quality plastic inserts for the filter holders and one of the clips. On the back we've got a lock, which we'll look at momentarily, and we have a cog that allows you to rotate filters, and two locking systems on this side. So the first thing we'll look at is the filters. Let's put that to one side for a moment. Now, wine country use a caddy system as well. Now here's the caddy, and these are incredibly high quality. Even have this little brass insert that holds the filters in. If I take a filter out of this one, put it to one side, you can see this is incredibly stiff. Wouldn't surprise me if this one's some form of carbon fibre. Anyway, filter slots in, spring adjusted knob at the top, rotates into place to lock the filter in place, and then this whole system notches in. Now the first notch is for ND filters, and the second notch is, if I remember rightly, one of these is a little lock button. That's it. So we have a lock here that stops it moving up and down, and it's very free moving when that's pressed in. And we have a separate lock button for the two slots there. Now, as you probably just saw, if I put something in the front slot, that has its own baffle for a light seal. Now we'll put that back and we'll take a look at the polarizer. Now the polarizer is mounted in its own caddy with a cog system, and that's what these two levers are for here. Locks it in place, and now we have a nice knob with a bit of gearing, which means it actually moves the polarizer at a pretty good speed, which is one of the disadvantages I've seen on the gearing of other systems. I don't currently have an adapter for this. It's being sent through and should arrive this week, but obviously this is to lock the adapter in place. So there we go, wine country cameras. So, what a lovely setup. ProGrey is an American brand, not available by normal retail in the UK, I don't think, but it has a lot of press in the US. We'll start with the filter holder. It's in a nice neoprene style foam sleeve. Again, like many we've seen so far, it has a nice anodized metal back, using little Allen keys to hold on some nice solid sleeves. Now you can get three-way sleeves if you like, which would replace quite quickly, or one-way ones. We'll look at this one for now. No particularly clever tricks here. We have a clamp for removing the sleeve. it was a little bit fiddly to use at first. I would have expected to be able to put the mount in and have it locked down, but it needs to go in top first and then in, and then it can be locked down. That provides a pretty secure holder for it. Slightly awkward thing on removing is I undo it a little bit and I expect to be able to take it out, but because this clamp doesn't allow a huge amount of room, I can't get it that far, so I need to undo the clamp quite a bit in order to be able to do the double action of getting it in. So let's have a quick look at it on a camera. Use the right adapter. Excuse my slight klutzy movements, I'm looking at the screen of a camera rather than my hands whilst doing this. So there we have it attached, quite solid. And the filters are supplied in these nice white sleeves with magnetic latching. The 10 stop, which we've already tested, has a baffle on the back and is glass. The remainder of the filters, the graduated filters here, are resin, very light, slightly bendy, and they slot in quite nicely. You can make gradual adjustments quite easily, and you may be asking, why is there a gap here? We've actually got covers on these gaps, and the reason these are here will be revealed when it comes to the polarizing filter. So the polarizing filter screws onto the front. Might be best if I remove the adapter first. These things are never easy to put in. This is the advent of the magnetised polarisers. Can't come too soon. So that's in. We can now put on the adapter, lock it in place. And we can now see that these little sleeves in the corners are used for, if I can find the little notch, putting the finger in and adjusting the polarizer. But I have to say, they're quite fiddly to use, especially if the holder is in the wrong position. So there we go. I'm actually undoing the polarizer there. So, I would say, nice idea, but not quite working for me. I may be doing something wrong, I shall ask the manufacturer, but that's fiddly. Easy to adjust from this side, but not so easy with the graduated filter in place. So now we're taking a look at the SRB system in a natty faux leather box, which contains the filters and room for quite a few, filter holder, polarizer and lens adapters. So let's take a look at the filter holder. We have at the back the adapter ring, and this is an 82mm adapter ring. And in order to make this fit my camera, I need to use a step-up ring. Now this makes things a little bit fiddly in the field, so I either have a choice of buying multiple of these adapters, which take a bit of room, or have to deal with this adapter or leave one on the lens every time. Anyway, we'll look at that later and see how it actually operates in the field. The filter holder itself, nicely made, metal back, pull lever for attaching, and it has the usual filters on the front, plastic filter holders. And we'll look at the filter itself. The glass, metal coated, nice smooth edges, and it fits into the holder very nicely. It is a bit sticky, for want of a better word, but we'll see if that changes when we use it in the field. What next? Next we have the polarizer. On the polarizer, screws onto the front and then can be rotated using a cog. And we can put the filter system in front, and there we can see there's a little cog at the back that allows us to move the polarizer around. Excuse me for the slightly mucky state of that polarizer. I haven't used it in action yet. And there we go. Nicely built system. Couple of possible issues with the filter adapter, depending on how that operates in use. Now just screw the polarizer in. May be annoying if you've got yourself used to a magnetic system, but all in all, works fairly well. And now we'll take a look at the Highcraft system. There's a set of filters there in nice metal cases and a sleeve with both a polarizer and the filter itself, and I think that's all we need. We've got the polarizer adapter up there. So again, as is common with a lot of these systems, the back of it is made out of anodized metal, and we've got a couple of interesting adaptations here. First one being the fact we have two knobs. We have one knob which locks down the rotating, another knob that rotates the polarizer, and the polarizer is a screw-in like we've seen before. And the nice thing about this one I quite like is the fact you can screw it in using the adapter there. But like any of the screw-ins, they can be a little bit of a pain to take apart, especially when it's difficult to access the milled edge. So we can try and use this rear element to undo it. I think this would get on my nerves slightly. I've had to do it quite often. However, let's have a look at how it goes on the camera. With ND filters, or the ND graduated filters themselves, like many of the other glass ones, are nicely rounded and ground at the edges. This is a 0.9 soft. Interestingly, the way the metal reflects off these is different for every manufacturer, and just like the results we saw for the ND filter test. I suspect that everybody is making their own, or there's one plant out there that you can do custom orders from. There we go. So, nice and smooth. None of the stickiness of the other systems we've seen, or a couple of the other systems we've seen. Let's try and attach this polarizer again. Really needs a finger on both sides. Okay, now we have it attached. We can see that this rear knob here rotates the polarizer. So if I lock down the filter adapter for rotating, I can rotate the polarizer. That's all well and good, but I find this system of removing the polarizer quite annoying. There we go. It's the hider system. We're looking at the Cokin system now. It's the branded Evo, I think. Certainly got enough things that say Evo in there. The Cokin filter adapter, the lens adapter, goes on fairly cleanly. It's the basic ring, and on the back of the lens mount we've got a couple of filter slots, just like the front ones. So these mean it can lock in the back, and it just clips in, so it's fairly sturdy. No special features here. We'll look at the filters. Filters are I think spectacularly advanced going on here. They are resin filters, not massively clean edges. You can maybe see some of the roughness. If you use the second slot, the first one might be a bit stiff because it's got a gasket. There we go. A little bit sticky. Seems okay. The ND filter, and this is called a nuance filter, goes in the front slot. It's quite a secure fit. You can see these are supplied in a fabric sleeve. Now the only issue here is to put the polarizer on. We need the same as the Lee system. We need to put a new front on it. I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to show you the polarizer, which is, looks like 105mm. Yes, it's a 105, and it's a simple screw in, fairly slim line as far as the slim line ones go. Similar to the Lee one, and we adjust it using simple rotation, and that is the Cokin system. I'm sure we're all familiar with the Lee system, however we'll go through it just like the others. Lee adapters come in standard and wide angle adapters, so these are slightly recessed. The mount is a injection molded plastic There's some brass recessed screws so we can move the filter slots around and add and remove them. Filter slots are basic plastic recessed ones. The adapter slots on as seen. Leaf filters are the resin type. I'm sure you know these have disadvantages of having a lot of static, and when you live in a house with cats, that can be a problem. However, they fit into the holders nice and cleanly, smooth moving, and from my experience, reasonably robust for scratching. The polarizer fits in using an external ring, and I don't have that mount. One of the nice things about the leaf system is we have a lens hood, which I find very, very good. The polarizer mounts in this ring here, which you can see is mounted on the front of another adapter here. So we could remove this ring and place it on the front of this to get a non-lens hood version. Polarizer itself is a screw-in. It's called the landscape polarizer, which means it's not the very cool look to it that you might see in older heliopan polarizers. And finally, a few of you may have come across one of these before. This is the little stopper. We also have the big stopper, and this uses a foam gasket at the back, so when you put it into the rear slot we get a light seal, and that's the leaf system. Here we are with the Highcraft system. Now the Highcraft system uses a step-up ring for its adapter. Here is the holder itself. Now the holder has this shroud around it, which I've been told is removable, and it's mainly of use in preventing light leaks. So let's take this off for a second. Without the shroud, we can see that it's a nice simple anodized metal sheet in the background, and it has a gasket for the ND filter and 2 slots. And to mount it, we have a sprung mounted clip at the back. So let's put it on the camera. First of all, we'll put the step-up ring on. Then the adapter, and then we can put on the filter holder. Now, this is fairly straightforward. If we look at the ND filter, where it's supplied in a very robust packaging, good quality glass filter, some deposits on it from the container, but it cleans up quite nicely. I'm sure if you used a proper cleaner it would work better, but it's quite, you can see the metal coating on here, it's quite reflective. However, let's try it in the second slot here. Quite secure, no stickiness, easy to adjust. That's not that reassuring. So I'll have to look at tightening up the clamp there. So the filters are nice. We've got the polarizer, and the polarizer unfortunately is another screw-in which screws directly into the adapter. Now it doesn't have the rotation built into the polarizer, it's actually built into the lens adapter here, which works well. And when it's actually mounted, we have a little cog at the back here. And this little cog rotates the polarizer. Not particularly fast, but it's adequate to the task. And finally, as we can see, we have a gasket, so inserting neutral density filters is firm, and when it's slotted into two, it's actually really solid. I had some problems trying to remove this when I had the shroud in place. You can see how much force it's taking to move that back out. Let's say it's not going to go anywhere, but the chances of dropping it when it actually releases could be quite large. So, Highcraft System. We're now taking a look at the SRB system. Now, I have to say I was quite impressed with this. The holder is made of a anodized metal. It has a rotating element where the polarizer screws in. The filter slots are plastic, but it has, I think, anodized aluminium faces. And the adapter is a simple, like the Cokin, it's a metal ring. So let's attach it. And the adapter attaches with a little pull lever. The graduated filters themselves are resin. They are quite securely held. Obviously, being resin, we'll have to look at the quality of the colour rendition, but that's for another moment. And then we have the polarizer. The polarizer has a built-in milled ring around the outside, which helps to screw it in. Let's see how well I do. If I remember to hold the cog still. There you go, that's the polarizer in, and we can see if we move the cog, we get rotation, and it's fairly slim once the polarizer's in there. So I have to say, a simple system at a reasonably cheap price and quite well made. I'm going to quickly go through the 84.5 filters. They don't come with a filter holder, so they are, as far as I know, Cokin holder compatible. Slightly slimmer filter, resin, no markings to know what it is, but we can live without that. So let's look at the Cokin holder. They fit in. They move okay. The resin is reasonably well made. And they just arrive in the plastic and paper sleeves. And we have ND4 mid-hard and a medium filter, and also a ND filter, which I can't get out, which has a built-in gasket for use with the Lee holders. For our final filters, we wanted a budget option, so we bought some filters from Zomai and XC Source. Now, it won't surprise me if they're all manufactured by the same company. They're arriving in very similar sleeves. The Zomai being an absolute bargain, which had a full set of ND filters and a full set of graduated filters in one package. So let's take one of these graduated filters, which is a basic resin. You can see where they've been broken off, where the mould has been broken off. Very budget, a few marks on them already. Let's just leave that there for a moment. They come with holders, and the holders use a smaller version of the Cokin style mount, and you can see these are injection moulded, all the flashings are still on them. There you go, there's a holder. And how do the filters go in? The answer is, yeah, they're okay. A bit sticky, as you can see, but bearing in mind that I paid a third of the price of a single graduated filter for the whole kit, everything, you can't ask too much. I just wanted to see how these performed in relation to the rest of them, to see whether they could actually be used for a beginner. There we go. That's the full systems.